Hey, Mike Hystad here. I'm the CEO of a company called Habit Busters. Today I want to share with you my 7-step method to break any bad habit or addiction. Now, this is a process I developed probably about 20 years ago when I was struggling with my own drug and alcohol addictions. And at the time, I was really trying to find a way that worked for me. I was not happy with AA or psychotherapy or Prozac or any of that stuff. So I needed to find a way to permanently put the problem behind me. So this method it's based on a couple of different principles. One is that there's always a choice, meaning we don't necessarily have a choice about the things that happen to us in life, but we do have a choice about the meaning that we give to things. Two, that our beliefs drive our behavior, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. And three, and this is really the key or the fundamental thing, that if you can understand this, you'll really start to get a handle on managing your behavior. The third principle is that the better you feel about yourself, the better you'll do for yourself. Now let me just talk about that for a second and then we'll jump into the 7 steps. The better you feel about yourself, the better you do for yourself. Well, my question for you is, do you act differently when you feel happy than when you feel sad? Do you act different when you feel confident than when you feel insecure? Do you act different than when you feel energetic as opposed to when you're feeling lazy? Well, of course, right? So our feelings have a lot to do with the way we act. And when I went to, when I was going to AA back like 20 years ago, it was like, the one thing that was very apparent to me, that when people were standing up in the meetings and saying, "Hey, I'm Bob, I'm an alcoholic," you could really tell that although they were maybe proud to be there or happy that they were doing something, they're also, their whole physiology was one of failure. It was like they'd been beaten down. They were like a loser. They were like depressed. It was like glum, really is the word. And glum, there's a word you don't hear very often. So, for me, I was like, wow, if this is the solution, it's not going to work for me, because I didn't want to be depressed or beaten down. I wanted to find a way to put the problem behind me. But at the time, I could not conceive of the idea of living without alcohol. It was just too much a part of my identity. It's like my whole life and all my friends, everything about my whole life at the time was revolved around drinking and partying, and I just could not imagine a life without alcohol at the time. So what I did do, though, is I knew I had to, I figured, well, if I can't stop alcohol, if I can't quit completely, then at least let me try and cut down on it somehow. Let me see if I can manage my drinking a little bit. So I made a promise to myself at the time, and the promise was, if I ever have more than 3 drinks in an evening, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave off one of my eyebrows. And I should have brought a picture of it, but what happened was, yeah, sure enough, I was not able to keep my promise about drinking less than 3 drinks in an evening. In fact, that weekend, I rationalized, when does an evening start, and, how big is a drink, and what does a triple count as one, right? So I'd rationalized like 10 or 12 or 15 drinks, which is less than I drank at the time, but still, when I woke up the next morning, I knew I had broken my word to myself. So even though I broke my word about not drinking less than 3 drinks in an evening, I decided to keep my word about shaving off my eyebrow, and I did that, and an amazing thing happened, and that was really the beginning of a whole new life for me. And because what I realized at the time is that the confidence I got from keeping my word to myself blew drinking out of the water. It was like I felt so much better being able to keep my word to myself that I wanted more of it. I wanted to be able to rely on myself. And I realized through that my drinking, it was giving me a sense of confidence. And so then I started thinking about all the other things, like what were drugs giving me, or what was gambling giving me, what was even sex giving me. And I started to really see that my beliefs and my feelings were driving my behavior. And so I developed a process that was based on the fact that the better I felt, the better I would do. Instead of feeling like a loser, I wanted to be successful. Instead of feeling like defeated, I wanted to feel confident and on top of things. So I started thinking, well, how can I improve? I've got this, I've got this thing that I've got 3 drinks. Okay, I can see the value of doing that now, so let me see if I can do that, keep myself down to 3 drinks in an evening. And I did that for the longest time. And through that process, I started to improve my behavior, because I started to get confidence in myself and I started to feel better. So the first thing that I started to see is that what I wanted from my drinking was a sense of confidence, a sense of security, a sense of connection, a sense of being true to myself. All these things that I really didn't understand until I had failed so many times. And then when I started to develop my 7-step method, the first thing I saw is that you have to identify what it is you really want or need. And the more clearly you can identify the needs that are driving your behavior, the easier it's going to be for you to find a strategy to meet those needs that's more effective than your unwanted habit or addiction, as well as address any challenges that are in the way. So the first thing, rather than trying to solve your problem immediately, rather than trying to quit smoking and ending up feeling like a loser because you didn't do it, cold turkey and 100% successful, rather than beating yourself up because you haven't lost the weight that you wanted to lose, or rather than being down on yourself because you haven't been able to keep some kind of commitment that was, might have been very difficult for you at the time. What you want to do is start making simple little improvements, right? Because then you'll start to gain confidence in yourself and you'll start to feel better and you'll get some momentum. So this 7-step method is based on the acronym IMPROVE, I-M-P-R-O-V-E, and the first step in the 7-step method is to identify what you really want or need.